the pledge. Join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jen, roll call.
Yes, Chair Mounts,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Carhart,
Here.
Director Irwin,
Here.
Director O'Farrell.
Here.
Director Manning. Here. All present.
Moving on, presentations, proclamations, and recognition. Induction of our new Arts and Entertainment Manager.
Hi, good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce our new Parks and Entertainment Manager, Jen Schuler. I'm going to have her come up and tell you about herself, but we're excited to have her here. I'm excited for all the things that she's done so far and all the things that she's going to do throughout this project. As a reminder, this is a position that is responsible for the programming, primarily responsible for the programming for the new facilities that we are building. So with that, I'll leave it to Jen and let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. I guess I'll stay here. Liking the formality. My name is Jen Schuler. I'm excited that I finally get to join everyone here and meet everyone in person. I'm sort of originally from the area. I actually grew up Carmichael Fair Oaks. I went to the Waldorf School from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. I've since then moved on and worked at theaters across the country, worked in arts organizations as well as in large production companies doing large events and things like that. Most recently, I've been working for Norwegian Cruise Line running all of their entertainment on board mega ships. So lots of responsibilities, lots of venues, lots of people that I have to manage. So I'm excited to bring everything that I've learned to here into Fair Oaks, into my home, because I'm kind of from this area. My family still lives around the corner. So whenever I have time, I come visit, I hang out, I get coffee at Bagfish and Buddhist documents and love the brew pub. So I'm excited to see what this facility is. I think I've spent years walking around being like, huh, it'd be cool if this was something. And now it is, and I get to be involved, and that's really exciting for me. So only been here, not even a month yet, but been trying to connect with community partners and see what we can bring as far as programming and new and exciting events and productions and entertainment to the village as well as Fair Oaks. So I don't like to talk about myself too much, so get on.
Well, welcome back, and Dr. Calder, we're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
All right. Number 5, audience public comment on agenda items. Any person may address the board on any subject within the jurisdiction of the Fair Oaks Recreation and Parks District. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Any matter requiring board action will be referred to staff or committee for a report and action in subsequent meeting. Do you have any public comments?
Look like anybody wants to.
We will look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar. We will go on. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered by the board of directors to be routine and will be acted in a single motion. There will not be a separate discussion on any of these items unless a request is made prior to the time the board considers a motion to approve. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Are there any questions?
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On to our agenda items. 8.1, the monthly Fair Oaks Youth Advisory.
Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Mary Stokely. I'm the advisor for the Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board. Unfortunately, our chair Navia is unable to make it tonight. So I'd just like to give you a quick update from last month. We had our first meeting of our 2023-2024 term. We have 16 students who are on the board, including our 4 officers. And most of them are from Bella Vista High School. We have a couple from other schools as well. But they are a really great group of students who were very eager to get started this year. One event that we volunteered at, our first event of the term, was the Fair Oaks Chicken Festival. The students ran multiple carnival game booths in the free Kids Park activity area, and they hosted their second water bottle selling fundraiser, in which they made just under $650 for the group, which is great. So that was a wonderful success, and we enjoyed that very much. Upcoming, we have our October meeting where the students are going to be picking their service group committees. They're going to be volunteering in 4 different areas, and we will discuss some upcoming holiday events that FOIA will be a part of, and moving forward from there. Any questions? Thank you very much.
How was the chicken? I was actually out of town. Was it? It seemed like it was, we were leaving actually super early and it looked like parking was already gonna be a little bit crazy. Did we, how was the attendance compared to like last year? You know,
I'm happy to chat about that.
I'm sure we'll have a report at a later meeting.
We will have a later report on it, so we know what we'll be doing on the next board meeting, but just a quick recap on it. Yeah, attendance was great. You know, we don't have, you know, a way to really track exactly how many numbers were there. We get a little bit of an idea based off of sales of food trucks. Those numbers were up this year. So we did have additional food trucks there. So lines may not look as long, but I think more people were partaking and eating at the food trucks. So overall, I think the event was a great success. A lot of people out there. Staff did an absolutely tremendous job putting on the event. Really, it's improved every year. Logistically, on the staffing side of it, we do a lot of things that just really improve it to make it better for us and utilize less staff to be able to put it on, less staff hours, and then really attendees too. We also have new things each year. So yeah, overall, great success.
Awesome. Okay, moving on to 8.2, 8.3, a couple of receive and file for the Village Park renovation project construction update. 8.2.
Well, good evening, Mike Aho, District Administrator of Fairhouse Recreation and Parks. I'm going to give you just a short briefing here on the board report, and then I'll start into the presentation. September 15th, the ad hoc committee consisting of Director Carhart and Director Irwin met, and the reason they met was because initially the Village Plaza Park clubhouse and amphitheater project was scheduled to close out October 13th, 2023, or excuse me, close out November 28th, 2023, with completion October 13th, 2023. There has been significant delays, and the completion now is scheduled for October 9th, 2024. That extension definitely caused some concerns, and the ad hoc committee met and basically informed staff of some of the concerns that they wanted addressed in this meeting with you. And so we took those concerns and started developing the information that we're receiving tonight. And most of the information is in your packet. I'm not going to read all of that. It's a substantial amount of information, but if you had a chance to look at, which I know you did, the information from the manual, the construction manual is highlighted. Those are the items that the ad hoc committee definitely had concerns over the project. With that being said, I want to do the introductions then of our group here. We have representatives from ICS, and we have representatives from BOBO, and then you have myself here for this evening. I'll just do the short introduction, and then I'm going to let ICS take it from there. And feel free, of course, to ask questions as we go along, and also at the end. And we'll see if we can provide the information that we so desire. The big issue here that I can understand is that we want to address the schedule increase that we have in this project that you feel it was not communicated well to you and to the public. There are a lot of reasons for this project delay. If you want all of those projects delays, sorry.
Mike, before you get into all that, as I mentioned to you on the phone today, I'd like to give a real brief report of the committee. Raymond James and I were the ad hoc committee. Like everyone else, and I'll make it brief, I got to drive to Laguna Hills tonight. So we, like the rest of the board and the public, were very surprised to have the date of closeout go from June to October. And it caught us right after our last board meeting where we just concluded an agreement with the theater festival for their summer performances there. So it caught us all off guard, and we were very interested to get to the bottom of why we didn't know sooner. That was the big question. And so Mike will explain a lot of the reasons which he's shared with the board. I think I won't speak for Raymond James, but I think our committee felt like most of those questions were answered and provided to the board. But the one thing that hangs out there that really troubles us is in the master book for the contract, there's a change order form that's supposed to be filled out on each of the change orders. It includes sign-offs from everybody, but most importantly, it includes the revised completion date, the original completion date and the revised one, as well as the revised cost. And we understand that's an estimate at the time that the change order is done. And we could not find any paper trail on that. I'm asking Mike to ask the people responsible, ICS perhaps, to provide that paperwork or go back and recreate it so that we can see how each change order, each determination we were going to extend the contract was arrived at, because we have to have confidence in the closeout date. Okay, in the contract, there are provisions that if the contractor can't meet the completion date, the contractor is supposed to get enough materials, supplies, equipment, whatever out there to attempt to do that, so they'll avoid liquidated damages. And we're not here tonight to press blame or anything else, at least I'm not. We just want to make sure we get the thing completed, because we as elected board members have to answer to the public. And we're just lucky that we don't have a local paper, or we'd be inundated tonight. So with that, I've asked that that paperwork can be provided by our November board meeting, which is the third Wednesday of November. Raymond James, do you need to add anything?
No, I think, we spend a significant amount of time with Sean going over a lot of items to really make sure that we had a very comprehensive meeting tonight, that we're providing a lot of information. I think we have, for the most part, so I'm looking forward to hearing it, and hopefully fellow directors will be content with what we hear tonight.
I'm hoping that will alleviate some of the questions, because our other three directors have not, aside from Mike's emails, not been directly involved in our call it investigation or whatever. Just one other thing I wanted to mention, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate that we're not here to like deep dive into documents on why the delays happen. We understand this has been a crazy period of time with a pandemic and supply chain and permits are probably always a problem. My main concern, and I think the concern of the board, is how we're sitting in here in a meeting with the theater and negotiating over a long period of time, basically what's going to happen. And then we get that done. And then literally 2 days later, it is bumped out another 8 months. That's what I'm most concerned about, is how that happens within 2 days.
Yeah, and I sent you an email with that, with the email from ICS with the updated schedule that came in the day after the meeting. It was an updated schedule that had to be reviewed. None of these folks know or address or work around our board meetings to get that updated schedule. We will start doing that, but we had not done that. The updated schedule came in. Immediately I got to you, and immediately got to the Theater Association and said, there is a change in the schedule. And
so this has been mostly a communication problem, as I see
Yes.
it. I asked you if you could provide pictures on the screen of
Yes,
the
we will have
the adjustment form, the change order form, and also the flow chart of task flow chart. So we can all see what those look like. I understand that you were relying on the task flow chart mostly because the adjustment form does not talk about completion date at all. It talks about price. And I understand from what you've told us on the board that there was a change in the program by the contractor somewhere along the way. The change didn't work out the way that was intended. There was a gap in the information provided up until the last minute when you got when they went back to the old program. So that's correct, isn't it?
There was a gap there, yes.
Linda, John?
I'm going to reserve my comments and questions at the end.
I will too.
So there are delays, as the directors have mentioned, there are delays, and those are major. There's some major delays. I'm not going to go over the minor delays. It's all that happened. We are in a delay, and I believe no matter how this process was followed, the completion date would remain the same. Those are justifiable delays, I believe. We all believe those, that I hope, and that the completion date is October 9th, 2024. The big concern, as you all mentioned, is this communication piece, as well as the way we develop those changes and how those changes are projected over to you. So the project, importantly, was within budget. I want to be clear about that. That's an essential piece of this project, the budget. And if the budget goes south on us, we're all going to be in a world of hurt. At this point in time, it is within budget. That's very important. The scheduling updates, as you've talked about, there's a couple of things that we have to take responsibility for. I have to take responsibility for. First of all, it's up to Bobo to provide that. If it's not being provided, it's up to ICS to get on Bobo to do that. If ICS isn't getting on it, it's up to me to do that. If I'm not doing it, it's up to you to get on to me. That's where we're at today. And that's what I want to just be very clear, that there's responsibilities here, and you're taking yours, I'm taking mine, ICS is taking theirs, and Bobo's taking theirs. The project timeline would remain the same, though. That's important. So today you will see the August schedule. It is done, where we've reviewed it this morning. So you will see the August schedule. This is your update for the month. We will make every effort possible to get you the updated schedule at your meeting. And if we can't get it to you, we will tell you why. There could be challenges. I can't guarantee it every single third Thursday or third Wednesday of the month. There may be challenges right around that, but I will make every effort possible. We will get that information to you. This is a dedicated group of people. I don't want to go into that, but it's the most dedicated group of people I've ever worked with. These people, all of us, from the community to the board, to the staff here in Fair Oaks Recreation Park District, ICC, Bobo, the architects, the subcontractors, and everybody else want to see this project complete, want to see it positive. We all want the same thing. And so that's what I hope we can get going forward. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and let ICS take it. And Ian, if you can put up those documents, if we can go through those, Dave, would that be all right?
Yeah.
And that would be.
I don't know if you have them in this discussion.
Yeah, I have them all.
Mike, can I ask you a question about the presentation you just did? If we had known the delay, the potential delay earlier, would Bobo have been able to up their game to minimize the delay? So that it wouldn't be so far out.
Sorry, I have to repeat that.
If we had known about the delay and the revised dates earlier, if you had known, could Bobo have upped their game as is provided in the contract and double tasked or get more people on? Because I have a hard time understanding why, for example, the basement thing couldn't be, why that had to delay everything else. I do understand the rain delay and the chain of command or chain of supply chain issue.
Yeah, let me explain it. That's actually an owner issue. I mean, that's us. That's on us. The water issue was on us. We made that change. If we were to ask Bobo to increase their time at that point in time, we would have to pay for the labor, we would have to pay for the additional materials, and those would be costs associated to us, which would then increase that $21.75 million budget that we have. You would now be over budget.
Okay.
Okay, so anytime it's our responsibility.
Was we lost some time, but we saved some money.
Yes, and some of these are substantial. Let's go to the parking again. We've talked about the parking and how that impacts our lay down yard and the movement of the materials and equipment around the project. That's on us. That delay is on us. We wanted to keep the parking open for the community. That's the right move. It did extend the length of the project. We don't have those finals. It's a very complicated extension because we don't have any way of accessing the site or laying down materials. And we don't have any way to move materials around. If I'm off on my explanation, I'll let Dave kind of fix me.
So did-
But I think,
So in that
I think I'm pretty
example,
close, good on it.
in that example, did we pay them for the schedule or the phasing of the parking, or did they do that?
No, it was part of the bid, so it was the same amount that they had bid for. It didn't go up or down.
Okay, that's very nice of them then.
Yeah, unless we did something different.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
That's good.
So Mike, just really quick, so I understand, because it didn't cost us any extra to get all that water, the flooding fixed, like.
we will see an increase. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Now that may be I want to be very clear to that, may be a FEMA reimbursement. That's our objective with that, because it was declared a statewide disaster, a national disaster. Okay, so it's just like a Paradise Fire.
Right.
You know, you can claim certain things. Now, we don't have the confirmation that that will be approved, but we are
I
applying.
mean, it's just sort of, it didn't change the budget.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it did for this time and material, which is different than a change order, because we're doing it immediately because it had to be done immediately. Otherwise, we would have delayed the project. It still did delay the project to some extent, because it changed the capping or how we're going to put over the top of that and the sequential events around that, which includes, you know, drainage, tree work, all those types of things like that. We're doing tree work now. So, did that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, my name's Dave Fickley, ICS with the construction manager on the project. A couple of you know me from the start of the design phase into the permitting and bid and bid stage. As I go along, I will adjust a couple of things that Mike had said. They're not major points, but something that collectively, I think it's important for the board to understand. To get the big picture, to really truly understand why this project has slid in terms of dates. And in fact, I think at the end of the day, you're gonna wonder, why haven't we slid? Because that's what I think. The original bid on the job, base bid was 19.5. We had 4 bid alternates, which the district accepted all 4, which added another 450,000. And then we added an allowance, which is basically all it is an allowance. It's a contingency for the contract, 1.8 million. That 1.8 million came from the original estimate for the project from the engineers. They estimated at the time that we went into permitting that the cost would be 18 million. And we took a 10% allowance and added that to the contract. We seriously discussed, given the nature of the project, the site, all the potential for problems, we seriously discussed a 15 to 20% allowance. And we thought those numbers were a little bit harder to swallow. So we back out and stayed at 10 across our fingers. Original duration was 18 months, plus a 30-day period for punch and another 60 days for closeout. I'll explain those as I go along as well. And again, as a background, we were in county for 16 months for permitting. We decided to go out to bid based on, so the permitting, when we get the comments back from the county, and we consider them minor, we make those corrections in the drawings, and we're going to have to resubmit for full approval on permitting. But at that point, we thought we had a good enough idea of scope to go out to bid and save the time, because we did not know how fast the county would come back with the review of the minor corrections on the initial pass. Turns out it was another couple of months. So we bid the job, we had 5 contractors interested and pre-qualified to bid the job and attended the job walk. Of those 5, only 2 submitted bids. OVO was 1, ED Construction out of Lodi was the other. And the pricing was very close, which tells me that we had 2 really good bids. From the time we awarded, we reserved rights to issue notice of receipt for 90 days because we knew we had a problem with the county. in order to save time, we went ahead and had county pre-construction, which they required with their inspection team. And ironically, at that meeting, we learned that we were fully permitted. We did not get formal notice from the county that full permits. That's why the delay, that's why you see a difference between the notice to proceed date and the dates that we have in the contract. Okay, so that explains that. The initial contract or the initial scope of work was both the site and the amphitheater to begin with. And we started the design phase. We were going to do this two separate projects. During the design phase, we decided to merge them. And then beyond the time that we decided to merge them, the district wanted to add the work on the clubhouse to the contract. So it's really, we're building 2.5, 3 jobs at the same time, with 2 separate and distinct design teams. The first team on the site is landscape architect, structural engineer, electrical engineer, civil engineer, and then a low voltage access electronic designer. On the buildings themselves, we have the full architect of record. We have electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, structural engineer, fire protection engineer is required by the county. Hazmat, low voltage, and then on this job, because of the amphitheater, we have theater consultant. As you know, we didn't have good as-built for the site or for the existing conditions. We knew we were going into the tight site. Once we were awarded, that site became even tighter, not just because of the parking. And I'll correct Mike on one thing. We discussed the phasing of the parking areas post-bid. We did not have that as a bidding requirement for BOGO. I don't know how much difference, if any difference, that was made in the price. The more important thing is the county. If you look at the bid drawings, we show our tent fence halfway into the roadway, all the way around the park, which means we would have closed one lane all the way around the park for the duration of the project. When we went out to break ground, they said, no, can't do that. Pull your fence line back into the property, which made a tight site even tighter. And I know you're wondering, well, okay, so it's a tight site, big deal. Well, it is a big deal, not at the beginning, but at a point where construction starts, you've got things built, it becomes a huge deal. It's not just because you're building the entire site, you're touching the entire site. Yet you've got to get connexes for equipment, you've got to store equipment and stage material, and that's huge. And because of the limitations on the site, BOGO has had to coordinate their material deliveries much tighter. The connexes that their major subs like the electrical and so forth, water plants on the site, possibly have to be moved multiple times, plus the heavy equipment. So keep that in mind as we go through all of the other impacts I'm going to show. And I know you don't want to hear the reasons why, and it's important for you to know why BOGO didn't submit regular schedules every month. So I think I have to touch on these to give you an idea of why that happened.
Well, Dave, can I just say that I, for one, don't question the complexity of the project, the complexity of the design, the fact that these things take a lot of time. What I really want to get to is the process, the paperwork. Why did Mike not get the change order forms on a regular basis? That's all I really want to know.
Okay, let me explain that situation. The change order, I know you're using it in a term that is understood by you, that changes the contract. Okay. To us, in this scenario, change order has a very specific meaning, and that is only a change order can change the amount or the duration of the project. That's its sole purpose.
Right, and we have a form for that.
I understand.
So
That's the form. That's exactly right.
That's a sign up.
But if you flip right there,
That's the form there.
so
Why didn't Mike get that? If you go down to the bottom left-hand corner, it's very clear from that. There's
Yes.
the original completion date. There's the amount of extra time given to the change order. And then there's the revised completion date. Understand that this is done at the beginning of the change order. It might change, it might need some amendment. But if Mike saw these and signed off on them, we wouldn't have been surprised. And it has nothing to do with the flow chart. So that's kind of the issue I'm really trying to get at, right?
Here's my short answer, and why you don't see a change, signed change order on this project. It's because there wasn't any. The change order, again, has a very specific meaning. It's there to change the amount of the contract, the 21.75, or the time, the duration of the project.
Right, and there's nothing in the adjustment that says anything about the
I
time.
understand it. Let me explain. The PCO process works like this. When there is a change to the project, whether it's $3,000, $30,000, $300,000, we get a quote from the contractor who collects all the sub quotes from its subs. We hammer out the price. Once it's approved, we remember we had a $1.8 million allowance on this project. It acts like a contingency or a buffer, if you will, before I have to amend the contract. So the AED form is the vehicle to do that. So the PCO, the change order that you are thinking of is in fact under our scenario, because we're using that 1.8 allowance, is the AED form. So as PCOs are approved, and we kept them grouped by volume. And when I say volume, D1 is the site, D2 is the amphitheater, D3 is the clubhouse. As we get those PCOs approved, they go into an AED, and that's what circulates between the respective design team, the lead architect, the owner, us, and the contractor.
But where does it show the time extension on that form? I
An
don't see it
AED.
anywhere. I was with Caltrans 35 years. If we change the, and I had multi-million-dollar projects, if we change the time frame, if we change the order, the amount of work, we had a change order. It went in the project file and it was documentation so that so that we knew both the time and the money change.
Absolutely.
This other form, Mike nicely gave us all of these, but nowhere could I find that.
I'll give you
And
another-
because that was in the flow chart, the work progress flow chart, and that was delayed for a number of months, I think that's why Mike didn't get the information in time. You know, we went off merrily thinking that we were still gonna have a closeout in June. Now we have to answer to our constituency why we have a 4-month delay. That's not a good thing when you go to get reelected.
Understood. My short answer to why you don't see a change to the time is because we've not approved that. The contract is very clear. When there's a time extension requested by the contractor, whether it be delay, change, or what have you, they request that time extension, and then that time extension request has to be supported by what they call critical path analysis or schedule analysis to justify and demonstrate, not justify, demonstrate the impact that it kicks the completion date out. Okay,
Yeah.
we've not, Bobo is not.
Ian, can you show that on the screen, the flow chart?
Dave,
I don't understand what you mean by the flow chart.
Okay, that's why we need to see it on the screen.
So Dave, are you saying then everything you're saying, none of that was done because it was just part of our contingency?
On the money side, yes. So the AEDs, we're eating into that 1.8, right? And to date, I think we've got about $760,000 we've eaten into that allowance, with more coming and a couple of big ones. But the AED doesn't change the contract duration. Only a change order can do that. And since we have not approved any time extensions, because we've not seen the justification, we've not issued that change order to.
So then how come we have, it's a 10-month or more time delay? Where does that get documented?
It gets documented in the project schedule. And
And
that's.
we didn't have that for a number of months. Mike didn't have it.
It was inconsistent, right? We got updates in, November, December, then skip to March, and then skip to
And
July.
who is responsible for those inconsistencies?
That would be Bobo.
So
But
obviously they'll
I'm not,
address
well,
that.
they will address that. And that's why I want to try to take you back through some of these other, for lack of a better word, descriptions on what's happened on the job, what we sustained. That will help you understand why an accurate schedule update is so difficult.
Mike has provided all that to us, and Bobo had a letter the other day that lays out all of those delays. That satisfies me on that.
Oh,
What I
okay.
want to know is why we didn't have, why did we put a change order form in there? I want to know how you process the delays due to your cost adjustments. I consider that a change order that should document, why do we put that form in the contract?
If the contract requirements are ever met and a valid time extension is justified, we would issue a change order and you would see that document signed.
So
If it's
why-
not a valid, then if it's not a valid delay, then it, to me, doesn't make sense why there wouldn't be damages. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're saying we're literally delaying this a huge amount of time, yet we're saying it's not really a delay, but it truly is a delay, but it's not outside the contract, but it's in the contract. It just kind of seems like there's a lot of double speak.
Well, there is to a certain extent, but remember, we've got several different kinds of delay that we've sustained, whether it's the biggest one. So right now, we're roughly 6 months behind.
Okay, 2 months, yeah, you're going around in circles. There was at least a 2-month delay for rain where they couldn't get out there and do.
It was actually
site work.
3, yes.
That's legitimate. How did you document that time? How did you determine it was 2 months, not 3 months, not 1 week? And where is it documented?
That's exactly our
Isn't that
question.
a change order?
Well, again, that's exactly our question. When Bobo comes to us and says, I need 14 days of delay, or I need of
Yeah.
rain, or I need 18 days of rain,
Yeah,
I say, okay, give me the time, give me the schedule analysis and we'll write you a change order. But that's not happening. And it partly because the schedule.
are you trying to lay the blame on Bovo? You're the project manager. You're getting what, $1.1 million to oversee the project? Is it?
Well, I wish it was that much.
What
but
is
yeah.
it? What is it? What are you getting paid?
The contract is 1.1,
Yeah,
But remember, that's multiple projects.
multiple projects. That's not
okay,
just this project.
that includes the design
Well,
phase, but
I-
still you're being paid to, if they don't provide the information to you to give to Mike and to give to us, somebody's laying down on the job here.
I don't.
That's the gist of our
Of the issue,
investigation
yeah.
and why we are upset. We understand the delays. I've been on multi-million-dollar projects. I know that they get delayed, and I know this was a can of worms because that clubhouse was built in 1902 and the amphitheater in the 70s and the park in probably in the 20s and 40s.
And you,
The stuff's old. We don't know what's buried. There may be bodies under there for all I know.
I hope not. You've answered partially your own question. It's such a can of worms. It was difficult. And now I don't want to put words in Bobo's mouth. But my understanding and my perception of the job, if I was on that side, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to accurately schedule a job when you have so many unknowns on any given day.
Right, then you follow the paperwork, so we get apprised each month in real time. I don't have any, I wouldn't want to tackle this. I have great respect for the contractors who take on a can of worms like our part. It's a risk,
And yeah,
and I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean we should not be apprised in a better form. I thought we had a form to do that, so that we know in real time what the delay is. And I don't think you challenge any of the delays because of the complexity of the work. We just want to see
Well,
Not
okay.
being able to truly account for it and be able to verbalize it, have something ready to share with us.
I
That's
understand.
the bigger issue.
You and Mike have said verbally to the Rotary and to the theater festival and stuff, it's delayed till October, which show us how it got there. Show us the chain of command, not the workflow thing. That takes a real expert to figure
Oh,
out
you're talking about the actual schedule document that has the lines.
with all the lines, yeah.
Yes, and that is the key tool to documenting time, delays, the disruptions on construction.
So does Mike sign off on each one of those?
No, it's nothing you really sign off on. It's
Well,
just,
how do we know when we add money and add time? How do we know not to tell you, have Bobo bring in a second work crew or something to handle it, because in the contract, it says that. And I'm not trying to screw Bobo, but it says if you can't get done by the completion date, it's on the contractor to bring in extra people, extra work. So that's your responsibility to work that out with them and tell Mike what what the new revised completion date is, and I'm not sure we got that. So I don't want to beat you up, but from here on out, the real point is from here on out, first of all, I want by November, a paperwork trail. I thought it could be done with the change order forms, but it just needs to be what added each increment of time to the project. And then from here on out, do it in a more transparent way. And I want to see, is it possible as we do new things to see if there's a way that Bobo can get it done before closeout in October of 24.
We've already started those discussions, but let me go
Okay.
back.
So you
You
know
have the document trail that documents the changes, the requested time. You have schedules that we have. You have everything that we have. The only thing that we're missing is a schedule analysis on why and where and when the delays occurred to the critical path that kicked out the completion date. And my opinion is that because of the frequency and size and the complexity, it is impossible to identify on a day-by-day basis and blame one specific thing for one specific day. And that's the challenge that scheduling.
you're a couple of years, but you're well into this project.
Yes,
Again, if you heard what I said, we'd like some kind of documentation from the beginning of the project with the change orders or whatever caused the time delay and what that time delay was. And you can recreate it after the fact. We just want to see the paperwork in a chronological form so that we
at this
know.
point, all we could probably promise or offer to you is our best guess. Because again, it's impossible on a given day to say what one thing, or to a certain
So
extent,
we're
even
supposed to
groups.
believe October of 24 then for closeout. We're just
closeout.
supposed to believe it without any.
I'm saying that's just our estimate now. We've got a long way to go here.
Yes, we do, but at this point in time,
I think the question is, how are we getting to that October date? What are the incremental times for each thing that are spec'd out, and how has that been determined?
I understand what you're saying. To me, again, what I've looked at, we're 6 months behind schedule. 3 of that was rain. We're actually 5.5 months behind schedule. 3 of that was rain. So to be 2.5 months behind schedule, and having gone through 350 RFIs, 130 PCOs, and almost 60 ASIs on 3 sets of drawings, I'm surprised it's only 2.5 months.
Sorry, what was
And
the
what-
original completion estimate?
The original completion date was,
October of 23 with closeout in, I think, November, end of November.
This October, right?
Yeah,
So that would be 11 months, right?
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I would think. So how are we getting?
How are we getting 2 months or 3 months?
so I'm tracking the substantial completion date, which shouldn't matter whether I'm tracking the substantial or the full. The original contract and notice to proceed had a substantial completion date of December 20th, 2023. The version that we just got today shows a substantial completion date of June 5th, 2024, substantial completion. Now, if you want me to talk about full completion, I can do that. It would just shift to different dates, but it's 90 days after each one of those dates respectively, and that's how we get to October.
well, you seem to be able to say that there were 30 days delayed for rain. So put that down on a piece of paper and then put down the reasons for each incremental thing, and that'll satisfy me. I just want to see what caused the.
And we have no problem doing that for the rain. It's 92 days, 92 calendar
Yeah.
days. It's the other 2.5 months that gets really murky, really fast.
Well, for example, when we got that delayed till June, from December to June, we didn't really question Mike. He just said, well, because of the complexity of the project and the rain and everything, it delayed that date. We announced that to the public. We weren't terribly happy, but they bought it. And we bought it. Somewhere at that point, we should have spoken up and said, why, how, what is it? Was it all due to rain or was it due to something else?
Now, we've had
We just
like I said, a
accepted it.
mixture of issues.
part of it too is like, we specifically directed Mike every single meeting at the end of the staff report to give us the completion date estimate. And it was literally for 6, 7 months in a row, February. Like,
That was after the
every
rain.
single month.
This
This
is
is
after,
after,
way after.
yeah, this is after the rain. This is basically all like from March and beyond. It's February of 24.
And then overnight,
And then somehow, I guess it went to May. That one escaped me. But then all of a sudden it goes to October. So that's just the bottom line. It's like, he was giving us a report every single month saying February. And then all of a sudden, no kidding, October.
real breakdown in communications, and I'm not
And
so much,
paperwork.
I don't care quite as much about the breakdown in the past. I want to correct it for the remainder of the contract, and I want to know for sure what delays are caused, what added time is due to us, and how much is just pulled out of your hat, okay? It should be documented by why 10-month delay or 11-month delay.
And that should be something that
Write it down. That's-
Bobo should be providing to you, correct? That's just what I want to fully
Correct.
understand.
Make
And
it
that
up.
should
It
be,
could be a joint effort.
that
yes.
should be though through a schedule analysis, correct?
Yes.
And
that's
that
exactly
is
right.
that is what you did not get.
Correct.
And I would say, my question, I guess, to you, Dave, why did you allow that to be? Or did Mike know that you weren't receiving the schedule analysis?
Yes.
Okay, why were we allowing going forward without a schedule analysis and not making Bobo, who's getting paid large sum of money, to be forced, yes, completely complex project, absolutely, but be forced to have to provide that?
We followed up with Bobo on a regular basis for those updates. We did not want to stop the job. And in fact, Bobo was making a very valiant effort to mitigate those delays by resequencing work where we come up to a problem, we stop, we could have froze. But they took those crews, and we found ways to keep everybody busy because 2 reasons. A, keep the job going, try to get it to the completion date. But B, they were very concerned about actually losing subs. They walk up to a problem and they stop, I can't go any farther, they'll leave and go do another job and come back when we have the action. We didn't want that to happen.
So we can't have someone creating a schedule analysis where other people are working?
That's what I don't understand.
That
To me, it
makes
sounds
no
like it's an
logic.
administrative thing. I mean, you create this document and then you take the information from the document. You can see on here, it shows, the estimate of how many days something will take, date that it starts, if it's a late start. And then obviously it has like the free slack column here as well, and percentage of completion. So that's what I don't understand. Why would the project be delayed more by having to do an analysis? When is the person doing the analysis? Are they actually like building something on site and they have to leave the construction site to go work on the analysis? That's what I don't understand. I would think it would be.
No, I think it's a matter of, they didn't have enough concrete information on when they could get an activity started and finished. Because we still had unknowns. We had unknowns with SPUD. We had unknowns with some of the ASI information. We had.
Well, unknowns are a contingency. You build that in.
Yeah.
But again, as those pop up.
You don't really build in that kind of contingency into a schedule.
As those surprises come up, that should trigger information to Mike in the form of something. I thought the change order form was a perfect one because it documents time and that, but there's nothing, there's a breakdown in communication. Suddenly the project jumps forward 4 months. Something happened.
Well, I
broke
think
down
it was an inability to do the schedule updates because of those unknowns and the impacts we're sustaining on the job.
So because there was unknowns, therefore, because to me, if I guess the unknowns, not unknown, to me, that sounds like a breach of contract if we're not providing that.
No, I don't agree with that because those unknowns are in many cases beyond our control. We can't control SMUD. SMUD was probably.
Well, what can be controlled is we're delayed because of this. This is a very specific thing. And now we know we're going to be at a minimum.
But we don't know when that delay is going to end, and we still don't with SMUD.
But each surprise like that should have an estimate at the beginning of the delay and then an adjustment when it exceeds that or when it's less than that. So that we have a real-time sliding completion date, which would have been provided with the change order form. We need that real-time thing, not just once every 8 months. And so I don't know who's responsible for it, Bobo, you or Mike.
Well, I think the biggest gap that we had in schedule updates was about 3 months. Maybe 4. We got a March and we got a July. That was the biggest gap.
Well, I hope, I've got a 500-mile drive ahead of me. I'm gonna have to leave, but I hope by November you can give us something, some paper trail that shows us the changes. I'll wait, I want to hear what Bobo has to say and I make that out.
Okay.
It's a long way down. to go.
Is the schedule analysis, is that something though? I mean, probably a lot of this is still the answer, but just seems to me either, it seems you guys don't consider a change order form for what we want a change order form to be.
Yeah, it is semantics, yes. You're
And,
right.
but the thing is, we're wanting something. If they can't complete a full schedule analysis, we need to have paperwork showing time delays and what it's costing, or an estimation of what it's costing. Because if we're not, and we're not saying any updates on that, regardless of if it's included in the contingency or not, to me, it just seems like we're just allowing things to be delayed and be part of the contract, which to me, I don't believe should be.
Well, obviously, we know about the rate. Obviously, we know
Yeah.
the ongoing stuff. What we have to worry about now is how the delays concurrently stack up amongst each other.
And that should be documented and written down and given dates.
It's
It should-
350
It should be in real time, not once every 6 months, you know? That's the big problem we have here. So I hope you can get it corrected in the future at least. Again, I don't want to hang Mike, I don't want to hang you, I don't want to hang Bobo. But we need to get that paperwork cleaned up so that we can see and we can go out to our constituents and say, this is why you're not getting the facility for 10 months or 4 months. This is why we're going to lose so much revenue. This is why our new events and facilities coordinator is going to sit here with nothing to rent. You know, we need to have the answer. So if you would do that by November, I'll be happy, okay? I know Bobo's going to talk about complexities of the job. I appreciate that. I've worked with a lot of contractors, you know. I know it's complex, and I know this is an especially complex project, so I don't want to crucify them. But the process, the paperwork process has got to be corrected from here on out, and we want to see what it was to this day, to the best of your contrivance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do we fix the communication going forward is basically
Right.
what the crux of this whole argument is just how do we fix this? So how do we not get to August of 24 and oh shoot, oh now we're looking at June of 25. Like,
Oh, that darn rain.
oh shoot, oh, well, we can't really explain what happened because it's so complex. I mean, we need to figure out a better way of communicating this on a very minimum monthly basis.
No, and I am proposing to give you a monthly schedule on this at the board meeting. Again, it may not hit exactly at the board meeting date, but I'm hoping to be able to do that, like every effort possible to do that. That is something we can do, and we can provide that to you.
I think the ad hoc committee has asked Dave all the pertinent questions here. I would love to hear Bobo so I can congratulate them for taking on such a complex job and so they don't feel like they're being ambushed here. So-
But just before that, I mean, Dave, you probably didn't even say anything you were planning to say. But is there, I mean, I don't know how much anyone has any questions for Dave, but is there anything that you haven't mentioned as we've been grilling you that you would like to take the opportunity to say on behalf of ICS, on behalf of yourself, on behalf of the project?
I will say, and I'll reiterate what Mike said earlier, this team is wholly committed to get this job done as fast as we can. It's just, in certain scenarios, things are out of our control. Can we document them all? That remains to be seen, because they are so intertwined. And because, again, remember, we're trying to build 3 jobs at once. This is essentially what it comes down to. And dealing with 2 different design teams. And then having to deal with the utilities. And I didn't even mention the inspectors yet, but that's even another, and that's going to be a problem going forward. SMUD, the county inspectors, Sacramento Fire inspections, and the problems we remain to uncover yet are still going to impact our schedule, very likely. And I think what I will say is the district was very lucky to get a contractor like Bobo
Yes.
to work through this, because like I said, if I were to look at some of these documents and some of these numbers, I would have guessed we would be a year behind schedule. So I will say that much for them. And you continue, they look for solutions, they don't complain, they don't come up with their hands out. So, and that needs to be applauded, because a lot of other contractors wouldn't do that.
That's unique. Our resident engineers at Caltrans and the contractors were always wrestling in the mud,
Oh, yeah.
and the contractors were enjoying it.
And I'll just reiterate, nobody is questioning the ability or the dedication of
Yeah.
anybody involved here. What we're questioning is our blindness of not knowing what is going on and
Understood.
getting a delay like this
And
out of the
obviously,
blue.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, and obviously knowing that we'll do everything we can to correct that going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Juan, I'm the PM for the Village Park Project, Bobo Construction. During the conversation just happening, moving forward, I think we have the data to generate better communication between us, the whole team, and to the board. There are challenges up ahead. We are committed to minimizing costs and impact to the project. One thing that maybe wasn't touched on, any change, you see a PCO, I even saw one on the screen, it showed 10 days. We communicated 10 days. But that's not, that has to go through a process like they've mentioned. But the design time is not factored into that. By the time we get a design, there is multiple people and groups that have to see it, to review it, by the time we get to price it. And that's the time we can account for. And we are trying not to stop the job for that reason. So like mentioned, we're trying to find every opportunity to keep the job going and not find excuses to just stop.
So you've had a lot of RFIs, that's the request for information from the designers, and that you're getting a delayed response. They're not answering quick enough. That's something that maybe you could factor into your time constraint. And also Mike needs to get on them. We paid our design people a lot of money.
That would probably come in the not in the impact analysis, but some of these RFIs and ASIs have to go outside our work group. They have to go to the county for review or other entities before they become a monumental part of our contract documents. And those are times that, or impacts that may not be seen in our change orders, but they are in our schedule. And the biggest one you see, ASI 11.4 went through 4 revisions, and that was huge impact, and that's power to the site. That is critical. So we worked all the way around the site up to that point where the power was possibly coming into the site. And that's where we're still at right now. We're working through some inspection issues. We're actively working with the SMUD team and other entities outside, Comcast. And I think moving forward, it's looking good. It's looking good. This month, September, was a good month for activity because the dust settled with some unknowns. Moving forward, it's looking promising. We are attacking certain sites early. That's why the schedule looks kind of broken up. You'll see some activities are not solid, they're broken up because we started them early, but they might have been delayed, and that's why they're extended. Or the percentage complete is not advanced. That's what it's showing. We started early, but it's delayed because it hasn't progressed. And you'll see that throughout the whole schedule. That critical path right now on the screen, that's indicative of what I'm just talking about.
So you guys, the contractor, prepare this CAS flow chart.
Yeah,
And it does have at the very bottom, a revised completion date and a revised closeout date, right?
correct.
How do we get that? How do we make sure that that gets up to Mike and gets to us promptly each month?
We'll just have to provide that. every month. Even if we call it a draft.
Yeah.
A draft, we'll provide that. That's one thing we did not want to push to Mike. That's our fault. Because we wanted something concrete, legit, that's supported by all the contract documents as approved. But moving forward, we'll put out draft pieces.
Yes, and
Yeah.
the amendment after the
Yeah,
fact, that's good.
And we have been dealing with SMUD, working around some of the issues since before the contract started. So we're working through them. And I think we're gonna complete this job with power and for something for the community to use for many years. I feel confident moving forward. We have a great team, like mentioned earlier. We don't want to come forward with excuses, but we do have to work through some of these problems. Even we talked about rain delays. This job didn't shut down. We've actually worked every opportunity we could, any part of the site, of the 3 sites we worked. We actually advanced the clubhouse at that time because that was all interior work. We kept that moving, but moving forward, I think we'll be okay, and we'll move forward with moving draft pieces out to you guys, and we'll stamp them as draft, and then maybe reconfirm it with a final for your next monthly meeting.
I appreciate that. Mike speaks very highly of Bobo as a contractor and speaks very highly of you, so know that. I don't have any reason to question that, but we do have to solve this problem of getting our completion date on a, best guess each month, so we can keep everybody apprised.
Yeah, I don't see a problem. I came here today to get more clarity as to what we need to do better, and I'm committed to doing that, so, and Bobo as well, so I'm glad we're here to see, and hopefully have better communication to you guys.
So Juan, what about providing a schedule analysis or providing schedule analysis?
I think we do have the data, and we do have the supporting documentation. We'll request to sit down and go over each PCO. I have everything in Excel and even in our softwares to be able to compile this data. A lot of the things that push this schedule is just the logic that's already put in place through the baseline schedule. So if we make a change, it automatically pushes out because it has relationships that keeps intact. We have been trying to break some of the relationships. So because they start early, some activities could start early, and we don't want them to hold the relationship and push the job out because of the 28-day task. We're working through some of those things to make sure our subs are okay with that. Those are the things internally that we're working with ICS month to month or as they come up. But
So we appreciate
have the
that
data to
effort.
provide that.
We appreciate that effort to keep things moving as best you can.
as far as that meeting, we'll have that as soon as possible.
You said we still don't have power?
Primary power is being worked on as we speak.
You posted that picture of the lights being lit up.
Oh, that's.
That's
Yes,
temporary.
Temporary, yeah.
We're talking about the primary power to the community.
So SMUD, how much has that added to the delay?
If I speak just on SMUD, you'll see in the schedule, we're back to 2022, October-ish. It's ASI 11 point. We've had two revisions to their drawings. We've had power coming in from the Fair Oak side, the west side. That was bored. And then they didn't want to go that route. We got new commitment drawings. Now we're coming in between the building, between the two sites, coming from California to the north. And that's a total different location. So we refaced everything to allow that work to happen. So we're talking eight months or even longer.
So that was the delay well that was redesigned by SMUD.
Yeah, so we've had 4 ASIs that we were communicated as our contract document to us, but behind that, there's SMUD engineers that provide commitment drawings that show how their system is tying into the site. That has been revised.
I know there was a major power line that ran north-south through the project there. That wasn't very deep enough.
That initially, that was the original, the primary power box that was on site, pre-construction, that utility was too low.
So
That is correct.
that had to be redesigned and then,
A new
or
box,
you could do it.
a new box is being placed in California, running the north-south direction. For a brand new line going all the way to Park.
Well, those are legitimate delays.
But as you can see, we already done concrete. We've done as much hardscape that we could without redoing anywhere. We don't want to redo work. It's not good optics, and it's not good planning to redo work. Because, well, so right now we have 2. We've doubled up our forces with our subcontractor to bore that line that we're talking about, our primary power north-south as we speak. Or this month, sorry, this month.
I think I want to add something because it kind of demonstrates what was done. When we found out we were working through all of that with SMUD, we didn't stop the job. That means grading was done, concrete blocks were poured, lights were put in. Even though we knew we were going to have to get that power on the north-south line. So now, instead of trenching it, we actually have to bore underneath so that we don't break or disturb work that's already in place. So these are the kinds of things, like Juan says, this is an 8, 9, 10-month delay. Yet the project is still only a few months behind schedule after you consider the rain. So these are the kinds of efforts that the team is making to mitigate the issues and the challenges that we have on the job.
Well, it's nice to know of all of those things in detail. Again, what we're more interested in, I believe, is let's just get apprised on a timely basis so that we can convey that to the community at large, and then we'll be happy. I mean, I, for one, know how complex that site is, it's got a long history, and I thank you guys for taking the project on. And I look forward to a beautiful facility when it's done to serve another generation or 2. So you'll be part of something big and wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I don't have any. I mean, I'll just reiterate one more time that we completely appreciate your dedication. We're not questioning your work. We're not questioning, we understand delays happen, but only thing we're worried about is how we got caught in the dark with all of a sudden 2-day switch of a 5-month delay. That's it. So, but I appreciate everything you guys have said, all your justification. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think any of us have any questions on your ability or your commitment to the job. So we thank you for that. Okay. Moving on.
I'm going to cut out your mom's 95th birthday is
Okay.
tomorrow, and I was planning on traveling today, so I got to
Say.
settle it down there.
All right.
Thank you.
We're moving on to the.
Just presentation. Mike, were you gonna talk about, I guess it's mostly about just kind of what it's gonna look like going forward?
Let's address that officially.
That's
Okay, going forward. So
what we can expect from you.
So the concern, a directive from the board is what we're getting here. And the official directive is a staff working order basically from the board. And so what I'm hearing from you is that we will provide a monthly schedule to you at your board meeting. Again, I want to reiterate, as Juan had said, that it may be stamped as a draft. Okay, I want to be aware of that. And it sounds like that's okay.
We're not asking for like,
Right.
and this is when the date is.
Exactly.
We just want communication.
Yes.
So we can understand, oh, okay, we had another delay.
And-
Probably gonna.
Yeah, and so we'll provide that to you. Is there, I can also provide you with the PCOs as they are approved. We won't give you the draft ones because those go back and forth with costs and things like that for quite a while. But once the PCO is approved up to $70,000, I would be bringing those over to you. If they're over 70,000, you would have to have the first approval for that. So am I missing anything else that you would like to see from us?
One thing, and I'm sorry, Director Carr, just like, that was something I did want to bring up, how everybody did feel about the PCOs at 70,000. Everybody was still good with that being an allowed expense without our approval.
I'm fine with it, but I would like if the ones that the full board is not seeing. I think it'd be nice if it was provided maybe to the ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
And that you were given like, I don't know how often you guys meet, but
And
It's
well,
pretty
that's
regularly.
something that we would like to be meeting again regularly on as well.
I just don't want to see any more delays. So
Right.
if we change it from 70 to 100, all of a sudden we're adding time.
That you will be adding time. Because we'd have to wait for approval from the board.
Right.
At this point in time, we're still within our contingency. And so, that's where that's,
With a couple
what
of
we would
large
sit in,
ones
yeah,
coming.
that
as you
1.8
say.
million.
Yeah.
So obviously we get real close to that, there's got to be some kind of change. 70 won't work, but
Do you know how large the ones that Dave alluded to?
the largest one at this point has been about 50. And now you'll see these PCOs, you'll see about 4 on the sheet. And so each of those are individual projects, and you'll see the cost on those. None of those have exceeded $60,000.
So
Most of them are much less.
if I remember correctly, he said we're 700 and change into the 1.8.
Yeah, and I know I have the document here. I
Then
don't
he
have
said a
that.
couple more large ones coming. So I
We-
just wanted to
those
make sure
large
those
ones
were
you
like
will
200
be
or
seeing.
300.
Yeah, you will be seeing this.
But I do think it would be good for us to be able to see them.
Yeah.
And or just at least be able to review them.
Prior to formalizing them or after I sign them.
I think after you. sign.
Okay, that's very, we can do that. So we give those to you monthly as they are signed. So pack it up. And I don't think we'll include all of the documentation around that, because some of those are 800 pages. So we'll just give you.
There's document 800 pages. for
Serious.
A change.
Yes, for all the information for the redrawings and everything like that, yes. Yes. Yeah. And the specs for the project, the things that we're doing this. Some of it's just redundancy.
Well, hopefully someone is reading. If there is 800 pages, someone's
And
reading.
that comes down to the architects. You got to remember, the architects are doing most of that technical work. So, yeah. So if I got that right, is that the directive that I get that correct?
Yes.
I wanna be sure I-
Well, that's actually really no different than what we wanted before, but I guess we're just making it a little bit more.
Yeah, you're making me accountable, and I'm making Bobo account or ICS accountable. ICS making wise.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And on to 8.3, another receive file bond financials presentation.
Jamie's doing most of this. This is budget, correct?
This is, so what I've done is taken the financial history of anything related to our bond expenses and revenues, and I summarized all that data into a fancy, hopefully exciting and riveting PowerPoint presentation for you. Just to give you an update of where we're at. We do have within the packet, the board packets this month, a lot of the supporting documentation for what we're seeing. So just going to give you a little more insight into some of the expenses and some nice visualizations of it, just to show you how we progressed. Okay. So first I'll talk about proceeds, that being the inflow from the actual bond issuances, in addition to the interest that we received. I'll go over the contracts, including the large contracts with Global and ICS, and also kind of where we're at in terms of what is remaining on our balances of these contracts, what's been closed out, and things like that. And then I'll dive deeper into the expenses for anything that was not within a contract, so outside expenses. And you actually got within your packet a listing of every single expense and then a description of what that was. So we're being really transparent as far as where money is being spent. And it's also tied to our projects as well, so you know which project that was. Okay. And also, as a reminder to myself and a reminder to the board, this is data as of August 31st. Typically, I don't report on data that hasn't officially closed until the last period closure was April. Okay, so jumping right into proceeds, as you know, we did 3 bond issuances. There you see the face value of these issuances and the interest earned on those proceeds. And this is what is remaining. So we've actually gone through our 2019 bond. And so you won't see that here. We have funds in our construction account. This is the account that we use as our, essentially our cash account to pay bills. So we pull money from investments and put it in this account, keeping as much money in our investments as possible while not keeping too much liquid. And the point of that is clearly so that we're maximizing our interest, although that is, of course, not the goal of having loss. Okay, so altogether, in terms of what we have as of 8/31 is about 12,148,000. Okay. These are our anticipated inflows. So here you'll see the different revenue from grant programs that we would anticipate, in addition to some reimbursements. So altogether, in anticipated inflows for these projects, we're looking at 1.9 million. Clearly, I haven't included that as actual funds that we have in the bank account, but that is anticipated money to be received. Okay, so going over the major contracts, starting with Bobo. So Bobo contract being at 21,750,000. We have done 13 pay applications, essentially invoices that we've paid, totaling 10,265,000 with 11,484 remaining in the contract. Okay, this does not include that allowance. I went right off the contract. I call it the face value, but I did not build the allowance into this. Okay. This is for ICS, as discussed earlier, their contract value being at 1.1 million. We've paid them about 643,000. What I've done is broken that down into the different projects. So as you can see where we're at as far as Village Park, just under 300,000. Now we do break apart the amphitheater and the clubhouse just for different tracking purposes. So I guess I could show you that combined, but they are helping us with multiple projects. So our open balance with ICS is about 456,000. Okay, any questions on that?
You've only paid them like 100. Your open balance, that's how much we paid?
That is how much is remaining in the contract to be paid.
Yeah.
So our actual, what we've paid them at this point is 643,000.
I didn't know that we were utilizing ICS for Jim Strang or for the foreign place. I thought we did the foreign place in-house.
Yeah, they were hired under contract to do all of our bond projects.
And they actually did work for Jim Strang? There was
Oh,
work
yes.
that they did?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they've been doing, and they've done a lot of other work besides just Village Plaza Park with us, including some work at Phoenix. And La Vista.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go through each of the projects and show you the contract expenses that we paid, but not including Bobo and ICS, since Bobo and ICS were general all project contracts. So just keep in mind when you're looking at these dollar amounts, they're not including those two major contracts. Okay, so first I have Jim Strang Park. So that one is, I believe, is done, completed. Okay, so within contractual expenses, we paid 906,000. Most of that going towards construction and equipment. There was also the other lesser dollar amount figures there for design, things like construction support. Okay, there was a minor change order there. So the revised amount of the contract ended up being 910,000, although we ended up paying ultimately what we had originally agreed to. Next is Phoenix Park. So no change orders there. We have contracts totaling 517,000. Open balance being what is remaining, 398,000. Of the 118,000 that we have spent there, majority of the funds going towards design and surveying work. And I am showing non-contractual expenses for each of these projects. I just want to remind you that, again, I line item each of them out. And I'm going to highlight some of the bigger expenses as well. Village Park Clubhouse. So like I had mentioned, we do break out the clubhouse and the amphitheater just for tracking purposes. So a majority of the work there has been design. So within contract, we spent 264,000. We do have change orders here totaling 107,000. So our revised amount in terms of what we contracted to pay is $303,000. Okay, but open balance there being only 39,000 as of August 31st. Okay. Sorry, it gets a little repetitive. I did change the color of my bars on these bar charts just to make it exciting, but yeah, the information is I didn't know how else to pizzazz it up for you. Okay, so now we're talking about Village Park Amphitheater. We started at 537,000 there. There were change orders giving us a revised project, revised total contract amount of 662,000. Of that, 66,000 still being open. Okay, and it looks like there we've paid a majority of the expense for design work, construction support, inspections, and actually permits, which was actually spoken to earlier. Okay, and here's Village Park. I got really, really detailed about this one because I know it is our largest project. So I wanted to break apart each of the categories as best that I could. So here, original amount that we were in contract for 830,000. Change orders totaling 363,000. So giving us a revised amount of 1.1 million. Of that, only 161,000. So things are certainly happening. And again, a majority of the expense being on the design work with construction support companies.
Is that design, is that Cala?
That project's Cal, and there's also with some other minor ones that are 90% was probably Cal, 95% is probably Cal.
And it's all of this, I mean, because obviously what we're seeing now in all of these, the cost is the design, and that's all Cala, correct?
Cal, and you also have WMB on the amphitheater and the clubhouse.
Are we going to see on this presentation then the total that Cala has received for WMB?
Yes.
Great.
I'm going to summarize this for you. And I also have a summary within your packet as well. Okay. Yeah, so I just drilling into the details to support that. This is primarily all Cala. Okay. So these are our other expenses, the non-contract items that I alluded to before. So these are the major expenses that we've had. Our biggest one being Chicago Title Company for the purchase of the land parcel. We've also had to purchase some playground equipment, as you see here. I'm sorry, I thought I was going to be able to point to things with this mouse, but here we go. And then also paying the county, paying SMUD. We paid for some demolition work and then the site furnishings. So those were of our non-contract related expenses. Those were took up a majority of that. Okay, also the other small projects that we paid for, this was the total that we spent for each of them. I do want to point out where you see bond administration, it's not necessarily a project, but those are the fees that we pay to basically set the bonds up, to have the funds created in the county. We pay fiscal agent fees to the county because they handle some of the funds within those. Okay. So altogether, for small projects, we spent $737,000.
I think one of the things about the small projects, look at bond administration of 90,000. And throughout all of these projects, every single one of them, we see no internal staff cost.
Yeah.
We have absorbed that as a district.
That, yeah, these are all, every expense that we paid is for a third party. Okay, so total expenses as of 8/31. I listed them by the expense type, with Bobo, of course, being the largest expense. Okay, so altogether, total spent $16 million.
Really quick, what was the design fee on Jim String Park?
Design came in around under 100,000. I could give you a total.
So Mike, why was it 450,000 for a design fee on Village Park?
Oh, you've got so many more components around Village Park. It's not even close. Look at the parking. You've got the utilities. I mean, all those things are part of it. It's not just drawing a picture of the flowers in the playground. Yeah, there's a ton of things, a ton.
Yeah, the total cost of Jim String was higher than Village Park.
Yeah, but there's a lot more. Again, I'm going to go back to those components. Those components are just monstrous. And the other thing about Village Park, you remember that didn't show Bobo's part of it as well. Bobo's pulled out separate.
Yeah, so total design work
Yeah.
at String Park, including Bobo, $49,550.
And this one does include the construction. So, which was Olympic. Olympic was our contract.
Right, okay.
Yes, yes, that's why construction came in so much higher.
Yeah.
Can you just go back to the total of all of the things broken down, please,
The one, yes.
that you were just
The one that you were saying.
do you, and then, sorry, why don't you keep
Okay, so total 16 million. And that's it.
going? So do we not have where you have outstanding then for each to have to show that
So
total?
I apologize, I thought I did have a slide in there for that. You do have it in your packet. It is the document titled Commitment Report. And I do apologize for not having that in the presentation. I see where that's important information.
It's page 5, I think.
So there I have, it's basically organized by vendor and then the project. So we do have, for example, one vendor on multiple projects. And then the original amount of that particular contract factored in change orders, the revised amount, what we've actually paid, and then the balances. So if you're looking for, I guess, our outstanding balance combined with 12.6 million.
So then that leaves us with,
We are at, if you take a snapshot today, we have 12.1 million. So there will be that. But that's not including the anticipated inflow and potential interest earnings.
So it seems though like
We're
there's
razor thin. Yes, we're on budget,
still,
razor thin. I highly recommend that we do not include any more expenditures.
I second that, and also I'd like to look at interest as a revenue source.
right?
And we really try not to look at interest as a revenue source. Now, it's nice to have that as your final cushion. And if that money is still available, then pick that last golden project and then let's go with it. But it'd be really nice not to spend that interest as part of this overall approved projects at this time. But it does allow us a little bit of cushion.
It's this one, the little
Any questions?
No, thank you. I thought this was very helpful.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
That was very clear and concise.
Colors were great.
Colors were great.
So all
Raymond
the
didn't like the
creative I can
font.
get
The
is-
font though, not a big fan. Everything
Come on, I'm here right this down.
not our Pharaoh font.
Raymond James, put you on top. Okay, got it.
All right, where are we? 8.4. Discussion and possible adoption of resolution 092723-01. Resolution adopting a mitigated negative declaration for the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Phoenix Park Master Plan project. That's an awful.
Yeah, sorry, I could not make that any shorter, unfortunately. Good evening, board of directors. Sean Ventura, Parks and Facilities Manager. With me is Matt Gerken from AECom, who was our contracted services for our environmental study for the CEQA for potential projects at Phoenix Park. Earlier this year, staff came to the board with a recommendation for trying for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant monies for potential improvements over in Phoenix. The board gave us that approval. As part of that application, we had to do an environmental study for the potential impacts of that construction and the new development that we would be putting into that park. Later that year, we sought approval from the board to contract with AECOM, and ball started rolling. The CEQA study began in April 2023, I believe, or May, beginning of May. That lasted for a number of months before going to public input. After their findings were put down on paper, we had a 30-day period where that went to the public for input. Couple of questions were asked on that, and if you want a little bit more information here, Matt is available to answer questions. I believe we had 7 total comments on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that is complete. At this point, AECOM is recommending a mitigated negative declaration, which is essentially saying that the impacts with mitigation would not be severe. And therefore, we can proceed with the projects as long as we get that LWCF funding. That's the long and short of it. Any questions?
Which project specifically are we talking about?
We went out to outreach earlier in the year for potential improvements out there. It would be moving the bike park further west into the undeveloped area. We would remove the playgrounds there, the dog playground there, and put 2 new ones in with a minor water play feature, a new restroom building. Enhanced parking was a big thing that came up in public outreach as well. It would pave the gravel parking lot there in front of the community gardens and increase parking around that central undeveloped area as well.
And as Sean had mentioned, that's all predicated, of course, on the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Timeline for that is winter this next year, winter this year. Winter this year, it will be awarded that grant or not, and it is a 50-50 match. So we applied for 2.1 million, I believe, and we have to match up with 2.1 million.
I will say that we gave AECOM a not to exceed amount of 69,424. We did come under budget on that. We only expended 39,568. So that's some good news on that. And I think for me, even better news is that even if we don't receive the LWCF funding, this study
isn't gonna go out of style. We'll still be able to use it for any future developments if they're similar enough in nature at that spot.
How long does it last? How good is the study good for? Like, how long will the county accept it?
As long as we're not changing the design in a significant way, it should be good.
Good.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution adopting the mitigation, negative declaration, mitigation, monitoring, reporting program for the Phoenix Parks Master Plan Project.
I'll second.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
8.5, discussion of possible action on district administrator review process.
Thank you. Good evening. There was no staff report going with this item, just a discussion, yes or no as to how I would like to proceed with the administrator's review. Typically, we've done a meeting with the personnel management committee where it talks about this contract, they talk about its goals and objectives, and then we all get an evaluation document, and then we do a closed session at the next meeting. That's how you would like to do this next one. Just let me know, we have different process we want to do. Do that too.
What we've been doing seems to work, so I don't know that we have to reinvent anything unless somebody else has other ideas. No, is there a reason that, because I don't remember any year that I've been asked about this
Yes, I
process.
just wanted to document it, make sure that if the process was amenable to you.
I'm fine with it.
I don't have any objections. I think the last, at least since I've been on the board, the one thing that I've wanted, which we've done, is just when we are in our closed session, we can hear from Mike, we meet ourselves without Mike, and then we meet with Mike. As long as that's continued, I am good.
Great, thank you.
Possible actions. All right. Board and staff reports, item from the board of directors.
Darren and I met with Rich Desmond, about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And actually, the meeting was for the purpose of figuring out how to handle the flag that was put up a long time ago. It's not Park District property. We have no acts in that, in that fight. So the outcome of that was, I think it's just going to be left as it is. But while we were down there, we took the opportunity to go to the area that used to be in Fair Oaks before the Park District. It is right there at the point where the rapids are. And we looked at that and we met with Liz Bellis and other county folks. And actually, we had a very productive discussion. Liz followed up with us with a note back to us saying, here's some of the things that could be done down there. And if anybody wants to look at the map, other material that she provided with us. I don't know, did this end up going to the board, Mike?
No.
No. Well, anyway, maybe we can pass this around, or we can forward the email. But I know we've got lots of stuff going on right now. But Darren and I felt it was probably a good idea to keep that iron in the fire and see if we can do something in the future. Which was very supportive of it, helping us with the county. So we'll see how far that goes. Yeah.
Let's see that. Is it a good place to write bikes?
Well, it already is right now, a great place to write bikes.
Just go ahead and pass this down too. Maybe you can keep that, and then you can get back to the next word. Would be great to just probably have everybody email the copy though. Yeah, that's the list.
Yeah. But the map.
Right.
She can email that to us.
I don't have anything other than I thought the chicken festival was really nice this year. I agree with Nick. There were more food trucks, which was nice. So the lines weren't as long. And I had multiple people come up to me and ask whether it was going to be moved back to, or they said, the comment I kept getting over and over again is, I don't see how you could move the chicken festival back to the village. It's so amazing in Fair Oaks Park. So I thought it was a really interesting comment from people who attended the event. So it was really laid out very nicely too. I liked how they set up the kids area, which is a fenced in area, which is nice to like corral all the children. And there was another area that was only inflatables, which is like, it was very well organized, which is great. So that's all I have.
I just had a question that I'm sure Mike can answer. Just with our delays, I am curious, not to be awkward, but for our new person who's taking over the arts and entertainment, what are they now going to be doing for the next several months?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of money. So
Great
I'm just
question.
curious what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, great question. We have other arts and entertainment programs that we will be doing and we do. And we'll continue to expand upon those outside the village core, whether it be over at Maristan, whether it be up by Phoenix Park, it doesn't really matter where. So we'll continue to do those, and our plan has always been to continue to do those types of programs. So it'll be an expansion of that, as well as we've talked about the foundation, getting that foundation going. Also that fundraiser that's going to come up again for us, and then just the general programming itself, allowing us to get there and do those types of connections that we need to make, whether it be for a children's theater or whether it be for the use of the pipe organ or whatever it's going to happen. Now we have that window to dive a little deeper into those pieces that we would have to dive into while we're trying to figure out operations. Also remember, we're still doing an RFP for concessions for the old library and possibly for other facilities. So that's still a huge, huge project that we need to work. So I think there's plenty of work. It's what we won't see, which is disappointing, is a ton of revenue. Now we will see some of the outside programs, but not so much from the inside. And the inside facilities.
Okay, thank you. One thing I had that I just thought of, Mike, is we had spoken a few weeks back when this original delay happened that we were going to concentrate on getting the village park open.
Yeah.
And diverting all our efforts into making sure we at least have that open. And I think you had said June.
Can you hold those pictures for a second? You heard some of those comments about the site constraints. And I took these pictures this morning out there at the site. I have some concerns. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but we've got to be realistic about this. Remember, the budget is incredibly tight. If we open that front part of the park with the amphitheater and the amphitheater, the band shell, and that part of the park, we potentially can cause a delay in the other parts of the project and a cost increase. That would be on us. It's not on Bobo, it's not on ICS, it's on us because we are dictating to them, get this park open no matter what. I want to be aware that us all be aware. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but we have to have some concerns. We're continuing to look at it. And if we look at this is our lay down yard where that project, where you're talking about opening, go ahead and just scroll through some pictures. That's the material stored. If we don't have a storage site for that other side of the facility, it could mean closing parking to make that happen, to have that storage. It won't be this much of stuff, but it is substantial. It's not minor. And so we have to be aware of that. And then we have irrigation issues. You've heard about the utility issues. All those things like that could potentially impact the additional days that we will have delayed and the cost. And again, those will be on us. Right. So we're looking at it, but I have concerns.
Well, hopefully we'll get those concerns brought up in a timely manner.
Yes, and we're continuing to do that. But this is a pretty indicative. We're moving dirt with a small cat, piles and piles of dirt back to the front of the park because there's no place to put it. So I mean, it's like moving
As long as that stays
it's like
on the
moving a
table. As long as it stays on the table, Mike, that it's a possibility
Yes.
that we keep keeping that door, slightly ajar in case you want
Yeah.
to open it.
Yeah, and we may look at other components, just to say the playground, for example. That may happen or something, but it's really going to dictate on how much of a delay and how much additional cost we could potentially incur if this happens.
So how do we get better visibility on that?
On this issue,
Yeah, on your concerns.
I can continue to do a community outreach as I have been doing. I just did one this morning.
Well, community outreach. More just moving the photo and figuring out like a plan.
Oh, I plan to do that.
Their stuff.
Yeah, we have been talking about it. We'll continue to talk through it. I can try and give you a update even next month on it a little further. We were very focused this month on this other issue.
Yeah, of course.
So.
And that's the only reason I brought it up is I would like to have that added to the monthly report. And any challenges that we're having there or costs, and if it is going to be a cost, how much? I just think it would be a huge win for us in the community if we could get concerts in the park going.
It would be great. I agree 100%.
Because the community, everybody I run into, that's what they miss the most.
Yeah.
Is that community gathering there on Thursdays, having concerts in the park. So.
And we have, you all have to determine if it's worth, delaying the project even longer.
Well, quite honestly, okay, we're in October already. We're going into winter. What are we gonna?
We have a black box.
No, I know, but.
Yeah, and a clubhouse. Those are all.
I mean, the odds that it gets delayed more are probably pretty good without this. So anyway.
Yeah, you're right. So I will add that into my
Well,
task.
I mean, other than the storage area, I'm sure there are probably other issues that will come into play. If you open up part of the park, you're gonna have to cordon off the rest of it. Or there's liability issues. I don't know what they are.
ADA
Just so we have an idea of what they are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what we need to understand. We're not saying that there's not going to be problems or issues. We just want to understand what those are and what the costs are.
Especially if we have constituents saying, well, why didn't you open this up? Or why haven't you done this? We need to be able to fully understand so we can share and tell them why not.
Right. I will bring something back to you next week.
That's all I have. 9.2 items from staff.
Real quick. Good evening, board, Nick Davis, recreation manager. I touched pretty much chicken festival earlier. I did plan to make sure publicly, give kudos to staff for all their efforts with the chicken festival. It takes a very large effort to put that event on from not only the staff, but volunteers, community partner groups. We are a small staff. We do have to rely on outside sources to help run an event of that magnitude. All led by Sabrina Bernardo, our recreation supervisor. She did an incredible job of getting us all collectively together to making that event happen for the community. And again, it improves every year, which is amazing because it's always such a great event, but somehow we find a way to improve it. And it just goes to show how much we care about the community and how much we care about that event. Even during the event, we're like looking around, like how can we make this better? And as soon as it ended, that's exactly what we did too. We looked at it from a perspective of the community members and how they attended it and how it can be improved. So kudos to staff and look forward to another great year. That's one. We already started planning, so
Great job.
Thank you.
That's
Nothing else.
everything from staff. Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great job, team. All right.